kind of band is this? Everybody poops sometimes. Give us the smother. Wake up, sweetness.
Your first time should be more than special.
I'm in, Savannah said. Good Lord, Gemma. When a man and a woman, in this case, really love each other, what happens is they fuck.
Ooh, hello?
Oh, dang it, I lost my fish. This next word almost sounds like Quidditch. Quidditch milade Diana Agosiagath an Fiedian. As much as I love fucking you, sweetness, we stared into each other's eyes whilst I moaned in ecstasy. Having consumed half of the bourbon, I keep saying bourbon. You know, every time I mess up on a word, Stunt Mama just shows up.
She had her seductive smile on her lips.
I said we couldn't have sex. I didn't say anything about everything else. Ew. Happy to help, biatch. You are the spark of light in the vastness of my night. His note, like a finality to a beautiful, breathtaking song.
Good evening. Hello. How's everybody? Welcome to Thursday. Another glorious day on planet Earth. I'm your host. I feel like the jigsaw's in the way. I'm gonna move that. Over there. Oh my god, hi, it is Thursday. It is. Red, Gray, it's good to see you. I hope you're both doing tremendous. I had kind of a chaotic evening so far. Not in the fun way. I'm literally sitting down for dinner. Like, just sat down. And I got a text saying that there's a fraud alert from one of my accounts. So I start panicking. It looks like fraud. So I'm like I'm putting a block on the card. I'm on with the Shazam people to check for the fraudulent stuff, and only to find out that it was actually legitimate. And this whole time I'm like trying to eat food. And then I got stream set up, so here we are. Mama House Gaming, hello. How the heck are you? How the heck are you? Oh boy. Trying out a new background, as you can see. It's kind of a fun little twist on it. Had a new starting soon video, as you saw as well. This one has the book feel, but it also gets me into the swing of approaching Halloween. It kind of has that spooky vibe to it. If you get what I'm saying. It's not like completely Halloween, but it has the vibe. Like something's not quite normal. What in the flock are doing, sir? Good grief. I've got the shout out for you. I wanted to shout you out, okay? I wanted to make sure my mods were shouted out. You guys can take care of everybody else, but I wanted to take care of you. Okay? Great. Don't argue with me. Alan and Bill the Duck, what's happening? Good evening to you, kind sir. How are you? Welcome to Thursday. And for anyone that cares, welcome to your puzzle as well. He's the streamer, he does what he wants, and thank you. Sure do. It's my party, and I'll do what I want to. So yeah, there's your castle. I don't know about maintaining that building, but gosh, it looks like it'd be a cool place to live. Or at least spend a night or two, you know? I also made this puzzle very easy, like 378 pieces or something. What was that? I come with a smidge of good news. I hit affiliate a few days ago, so now I have this. Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations, Alan. That's fantastic. We added 5 bits and 3 bonus bits to Alan the Builduck's power production. Thank you very much for doing that. That's right, Twitch has this whole bonus bits thing, which is interesting and cool and awesome. Or at least I think it is. Can we... I was about to do it, but could a mod please shout out Alan? And congratulations again on hitting affiliate. That's fantastic. Congratulations, dude. Well deserved. Well deserved. He reads books as well, and he has a helpful friend of Bill the Duck. Yeah, absolutely. Seriously, man, that's a great feeling. You've earned it. I hope you enjoy it. You get to add all kinds of cool things to your stream now, so, you know, revel in it. Amlas is here. Hey, Daddy. Good to see you. How are you? I'm playing some chill guitar music right now, since Pretzel Rocks rotates what free stuff you can play. So I thought, you know what? We'll try that while we're just chatting for a moment. I recently dipped my toes into an occasional game stream and played a little Half-Life, but yeah, mostly reading. That's cool. May I recommend Once Human? I'm a big fan. There's lots of content for it. Hours upon hours of gameplay. So, yeah. Can't go wrong with Once Human. Let's see. Amlas says, today was a long one. Just finishing dishes. I hear you. Today wasn't like... Today was weird. It wasn't long. It didn't feel long, per se. But there were some really big emotional moments. And that made it feel long. Because it wore me out quicker than it should have. You know what I mean? Just kind of... Yeah. One of those kind of days. Was not busy. Which is fine with me. Because I've had plenty of days that have been busy. But it definitely knocked me for 6. As far as just the big moments emotionally. I leave with a lurk, and I hope you all have a lovely evening. Well, thank you very much, sir. And again, congratulations on hitting affiliates. I hope you enjoy it. And I can't wait to see and pop in now that you are. It's going to be a cool thing. I hope you have some cool channel point redemptions. Make you do some push-ups or something. Just saying. You could do it. All right, I've got my tea sitting here. I'm gonna pop the lid off and take a sip. A sip. Gonna take a sip. Yep. Nailed it, as always. Well, almost always. I could make some fitness-themed channel point stuff. You could. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying it can't hurt unless you do them wrong. Then it could hurt. But the thought can't hurt. And, with it being Thursday, don't forget we're also going to be in Discord tonight, reading Iron Flame, continuing that book as well. So, !Iron, that starts in just under 2 hours. One thing I remember Tig saying is that if you like things on Pretzel Rocks, they will still play even if it's under the pay things. As long as you like them, that is correct. So I have a liked list, which we'll be switching to once I start reading. And the good news is you are absolutely right. It will still play things that are now out of the free section. If they change that, Pretzel Rocks is dead to me. I am moving on. So I hope they don't change that, because I will literally uninstall it. And then I'll just be playing stuff on YouTube instead, which I really don't want to have to do that, because Pretzel Rocks, when it works, is a good tool. It's helpful. Would I like to have a subscription? Yes. Do I want to pay the high cost of the subscription? No. In fact, let's see. Let's just take a look. Let's take a look. So right here, I don't know how easy that is to see on the screen. They're giving a 30% discount right now. So for an annual plan, because of the 30% discount, it would cost $50. For an annual plan, that's not bad. Normally I would do monthly, and monthly without the discount is $12 a month, and that's just too much. Only because I only stream twice a week at the moment. And yeah, so it's very tempting to get an annual plan at $50.32. But even then, I'm not going to utilize all the channels. I'm only going to utilize the ones that make sense for reading, right? So it's tough. It's very tough. Have you thought of Spotify? I don't know how that would work. Yeah, I have a free Spotify account. The problem with Spotify is that you will get ads just like you would on YouTube. And obviously we don't want ads to interrupt. That's the bonus of having Pretzel Rocks. There's no ads. So again, if they decide to change things and they add commercials to it, we'll have to see how bad it is, because it's a flip of a coin, just like YouTube can be, unless you have a downloaded playlist. But anyway, I'm gonna take a few more sips of tea, and then we're gonna We're gonna jump into our book. I should mention too, I went by our house build today. They have been painting inside. So the main walls of the house are painted, and then my office, which is being painted a different color, is also ready, and I am very excited. I have a picture of it on my phone. I will try and show it to you, because I say try, I don't know how well the camera will kind of pick this up, but let's give this a shot. Those are the main colors of the wall. There's the light from the window, and then, you know, it's darker in one spot where the light isn't. And then the floor is just a big pile of mess right now because they're still in construction mode. But yeah, that's the color. So I can't wait to get in there and actually start using it. It's going to be immense. Gonna love it. All right. Are we ready? I know I am. Let's switch over. There we go. We're on our reading page. We've got the sand up on screen in case anyone wants me to flip it. Watch some sand fall. And of course, we have our book. It's crazy how close we are to finishing this thing. And the plan after we finish the book is to have our author join us so we can have a little Q&A with him. So definitely don't want to miss that. We're on page 438 of the, I think, 486 pages, not chapters. Good Lord, that would be quite the book. Pretty sure it's 486, somewhere around there. So we really only have 40-ish pages left, 47 or so. Chapter 41 is called Bringing Down the Barrier. If you remember from the last chapters, Zalron was trying to put up, I think it was called a god barrier, to keep the stronger, aka Malachi, formerly known as Malik, out. So, without further ado, sit back, relax, and I will read you a story. Chapter 41. Eliath stared across the rolling hills at his home. 8 years, he thought wistfully. I never thought Targus would seem so different, yet familiar at the same time. From where he stood, he could see the tall, rocky castle overlooking the rest of the city. Its spires cast looming shadows over the fields, and sitting around the entire perimeter of Targus sat an onyx and red barrier shield. Eliath nudged the old wizard with his shoulder. Do you really think we can't take down an elder god barrier? Zylok shrugged. They are arrogant people, young master. They think they are invincible. But today, that will all change. We will take back our home. Eliath took a deep breath of fresh mountain air. Even in the summer, the north remained pleasantly cool. The tall red, yellow The tall red, yellow, and violet flowers swayed above the grass. I wonder if someone will make a painting of this war. Will we be remembered as heroes of Dun Nahar? Hey, Kay. Hey, y'all can't stay long tonight? That's okay. I'm just glad you came in and said hi. It's appreciated. I hope you're doing all right. Eliath followed his comrades along the forest line toward the main road to the city. Zylok, I think everything is going to turn out all right in the end. There's no snow on the ground. It's been a rough day. I'm sorry to hear that. I really am. I hope that whatever you do tonight to try and help, I hope above all else you're able to get a peaceful night's sleep. And tomorrow, start over. The wizard cocked his head and scrunched up his nose. What do you mean, lad? What does snow have to do with anything? Do you remember that dream I had when I was 8? I was so worried about that being our future. But look. Goliath pointed at the ground with an excited grin. There's no snow anywhere. We are all going to be okay. Zylok stroked his beard. That's the plan? Gummy is already ingested? Good. I hope it helps. Yes, well, I certainly hope so, lad. He held up a hand and halted their army. Listen up, everyone. Marakai should be showing up any minute. I'm going to take Eliath, Ezra, and Kairos with me to find the enemies holding this barrier up. None of you are to go after Zalron. Me and my team are the only ones capable of destroying him. I don't want anyone getting killed on my account. Sindral jogged over from a group of healers. You'll let me know when it's time for the plan, right? Yes, my dear. You stay back with the healers and help keep our troops alive. I don't want you doing anything else besides long-range attacks. You don't understand your mother's powers fully, and it could consume you if your emotions get the better of you. Zylok pulled her into a hug. I can't lose you too. Sindral grabbed Eliath and Ezra into a hug. You both be careful. We all need to go home alive. She put her hands on each of their cheeks and smiled. Let's make our family proud. Eliath held up his gauntlets and nodded. No need to fear, sister. Ezra and I have been working on some team attacks that are sure to destroy the enemy. I'm not the same 8-year-old boy you used to know. I don't fear death either. The only thing I fear is allowing Zalron to breathe another breath of life. Eliath narrowed his eyes. His pulse rose higher as he thought of his grandfather shoving the blade through his mother's heart. He turned to Zylok and spoke in a much darker voice. I'm going to kill them all, old man. Every single one of the Dark Council members will die. We won't let malice return. Never. Zylok put a hand on the boy's shoulder and sighed. Careful, lad. You're sounding a bit like the enemy. I know what Arion did to us. I most certainly know what Zalron's done to this country. I used to think darkness was the only way to beat these monsters. But I've learned from being around you and your sister that there's always another way. This is coming from an old man who's been stuck in his way for a long time. So please. Eliath shrugged the wizard's hand away and shook his head. You were right, Zylok. Darkness is the only way to beat these monsters. I always thought being good and doing the right thing would help us win in the end. But I was dead wrong. Eliath dropped to his knees and started crying. Arion killed my mother. He killed my adopted parents, Kayla's mother, and countless other innocent people. My father lost his life because of Zalron and the Dark Council. Music is a bit too loud. Got it. How about that? Let me know. I lost my place. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Shoot. Oh, okay, I found it. Much better? Okay, cool. Sure, he's an elder god now. But what good is that? I wanted my family to be whole. He wiped the tears from his eyes and ignited his gauntlets.
Jade energy poured out of them, surrounding his entire body. Why did it have to be this way? Why did so many burdens have to fall on us? Sindril, Ezra, and Xylock wrapped their arms around him and held him as he cried. The old wizard whispered his words. Young master, I know you hurt right now. We all feel the same pain as you. But I need you to allow us to share this burden. Don't try to carry the entire world on your shoulders. You're not strong because of power. You're strong because you have us. Xylock gave the boy a helping hand up and smiled. We will get justice for our fallen comrades. I believe in you, Eliath. No worries. Eliath sniffed and wiped the rest of his tears away. Nodding to his family, he gave a thumbs up and began walking toward the road. I believe in you too. Now, let's do this. Darrow came up behind Xylock and whispered, Do you think the boy will be all right? Xylock kept his voice low to keep Eliath from hearing. I think so. We just need to be there to keep him on the straight and narrow. That look he had in his eyes earlier was of pure hatred and revenge. I've only seen that look once before in my life, and it was from looking in the mirror. I'm going to help him stay on the straight and narrow. Darrell smiled and swung his axe in a circle. He's lucky he's got you by his side. A bright, circular explosion of light came from up ahead, and out of it walked Marikai. Eliath raced up to his father and waited for his comrades to catch up. Did you bring the allies you promised? Marikai nodded and pointed to the portal and two people walked through. One man, a giant, stood over 30 feet tall and wore a shiny aqua-colored gem on his chest piece, which was held down by 4 leather straps. The other man was a shorter man with long jet black hair and piercing pink eyes. Marikai held his hands out to the side and smiled. My friends, I would like to introduce you to 2 powerful warriors from Skaracha Mountain Kingdom. He pointed to the giant. This is Noland, the king of the giants. Nolan tapped the glowing crystal on his chest plate. His body vibrated and glowed with a hue of aqua energy before he began shrinking until he stood no taller than 7 feet. The man smiled and placed a fist over his chest. I am proud to fight alongside all of you. Eliath walked up and shook the man's hand. He felt as though his bones might protrude through his skin from the strength of his giant's grip. Good to meet you, sir. Thank you for coming to help us. His eyes fell upon the crystal on the man's chest once more. How did you shrink yourself? Nolan crossed his arms proudly. We had some help from my brother and a few other friends of ours. We created a piece of technology that allows us to shrink or grow on command. Quite the handy tool in the field of battle, because we maintain nearly all our strength, even when we're smaller. That is amazing. I'll be sure to ask you more about it when the battle is over. Eliath turned to the smaller man. And who might you be, sir? As the man shook his hand, Eliath flinched from the power. This guy's grip is almost stronger than the giant. My name is Zeltrix. I'm the king of the elves. His voice came out in a raspy whisper. It's good to meet you, boy. As the elf pulled his hand back, Eliath noticed 2 gold and silver rings on each of the man's hands. They looked as though they'd been created in another world. He nodded to the 2 men and turned to his father. Where's the rest of the allies you brought? Marikai crossed his arms and grinned. This is it. Eliath rolled his eyes and scoffed. You brought a small elf and one giant? Well done, father. We're sure to win now. Zeltrix removed a small sword from his scabbard and slashed at a nearby tree. A powerful gust of wind shot forth and severed the pine at the base. Before it toppled to the ground, Nolan lunged 50 feet in the air and grabbed the tree with one hand. He tossed it forward, as easy as throwing a pebble. The tree slammed into the energy shield and exploded into fragments with a boom. Nolan came back and stood next to the elf, who had a smug expression on his face. Mad Locust, what's up? How are you doing? Still think we're not enough? Zeltric asked, tapping his foot irritably. Eliath dropped his jaw and clapped. That was brilliant. How are you that strong? Have you never met an elf before, boy? Zeltrix looked at Marikai disapprovingly. You never took them to the Skaracha Mountains. Marikai held up his hands. I know, I should have. They didn't really have a normal childhood. Master Corgi, hi, don't leave. I need your help. Corgi? I need your help. You still there? Say something. Say something, I need your help. Corgi. Corgi. Hopefully Corgi is not in ads, because I did a pre-roll, so there shouldn't be any ads. Corgi? That tea is spot on. Spot on, I tell you. Corgi, I need your help. Can you please paste in chat the YouTube link of the show that I'm helping you with, that I play the voice of Owen for? Please. I want people to be able to see the videos you're putting together. That would be amazing. Every time you've come in, I've tried to get your attention about it, but I've always been too late. Yeah, first episode is fine, or whichever. Just a link to the channel where there's kind of sitting and waiting. I normally do other work when watching streams. That's okay. That's okay. I want people to know what you've been creating and what I've been helping with as a character voice, because it's been a lot of fun. I'm eager to do the next episode. I can't wait. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There's the channel. Perfect. I'm going to copy that and post it over here. That's not it. There we go.
I know
This
you
is
were
it.
here.
Okay, so folks, feel free to come check out this channel on YouTube. In here, you'll find... Okay, I have to run. See you on Sunday. No worries, Kay. Take care. Oh, there's the playlist. Let's go to that instead. Perfect. Yes, yes. This is a show that I've been playing the voice of Owen for. So please feel free to check that out. Corgi, if it's all right with you, I'm going to attempt to remember to save this, and I'm going to put it in my About section down below so that people can check it out anytime. Why is my throat so ticked off tonight? Oh, the tea though, the tea. And I think you said the next episode is on the 20th? Just over a week from now? Or somewhere around there? All right. We're at the top of page 443. Zylock cleared his throat. What he means to say is, he wouldn't allow the children to come with me on my adventures. Otherwise, they surely would have met you before now. He came up to the men and shook their hands. It's good to see both of you again. Eliad studied the elf's sword, attempting to find an energy crystal or anything that would give it such power. To his surprise, he couldn't find anything of the sort. I DM'd you the link so you can add it to your about page. Ah, perfect. I see it. Thank you. Excuse me, sir, but how did you make the wind gust cut through the tree? Are you a wind style user? That's what a mod is for. And an excellent one at that. Zeltrix shook his head. What you reading today? If you see kind of above my head up here, it's called Kingdom Society. Also, if you type in the chat !kingdom, you'll get a link to the author's page of what we're reading. We're actually getting close to the end. We've read this much. We have just this much left. Zeltrix shook his head. No, son. Elves don't use magic. We are gifted with immortality, strength, intelligence, and speed. He pointed to his comrade with a grin. Noland uses magic, though. Indeed, Nolan said. I specialize in Earth-style magic. Zylock grunted and clapped 3 times. As much as I'd love to catch up and reminisce about the past, I believe we have more pressing issues at hand. We need to split up into teams. How many warriors do you have? Zeltric asked as he studied the crowd. Marikai motioned toward everyone as he spoke. We've got 2,000 warriors. So few, Nolan commented. Zylock sighed in response. We lost a large portion of the Balgathar and Vasilius warriors the other night when we were attacked. This is all we have right now, so we must make do with, well, with it. I'll take Eliath, Ezra, and Kairos. We will go to the Elder God barrier and get it taken down. Once that's complete, I'll relay a message to everyone with my mind communication spell, and we will move to take down the enemy forces. Zalron will most likely be using his soldiers as shields. Just like the coward would do, Ezra said. Corey came forward from Charlie Whitehall's battalion and stopped next to the giant. I'll go with Nolan and Zeltrix. It would give me a chance to use my supergiant form. Marikai nodded and smiled. Very well. I'll stay back until the barrier's down. Good luck, everyone. Eliath trudged after the wizard. He watched from a distance as everyone spread out to form a line that stretched as wide as the barrier. He was ready to take back his home and save everyone. I won't allow anyone to die this time. Never again. As they arrived upon the barrier, he looked over his shoulder one last time at Sindral. Her long strawberry blonde hair trailed in the wind as she moved, and for a moment he thought he was staring at his mother. His sister turned her head and caught the faintest glimpse of a smile on the corner of a mouth. He clenched his fists and turned back to the onyx red shield. Zylok twisted a ring on his finger and placed his palm on the shield. Bright silver light seeped out of his hand and opened a small opening for them. Eliath followed Ezra and Kairos through, followed by the old man. The old wizard winced a bit as the energy barrier reformed. Eliath noticed a bit of the black on the old man's hand, but the wizard gave him a friendly smile and he knew everything was okay. He noticed his uncle massaging his forearms. "Are you okay?" he asked the man. Kairos managed a small nod. "It was a little painful walking through the barrier. I suppose it's a good thing I'm not a full-fledged elder god. Otherwise, I'd be stuck on the other side." Ezra pointed to their left, just beyond a clearing of pine trees. "Do you guys see that?" Eliath peered forward and caught sight of a bright red hue. He followed the trace up and noticed it touched the ceiling of the barrier. "That must be where our enemies are holding up the shield from." Zylok brought Ezra and Eliath close and gave them a serious stare. "You two remember your training. Do not try to take on the world by yourself. Work together, and we will succeed." "Got it," they both responded sharply. Kairos held up his hands and his body exuded gold light. "What are you waiting for, then?" Zylok held up 3 fingers. "We will all phase together. Ready?" After the old man counted down, they all phased to their destination. Before them sat 4 warriors sitting cross-legged, holding each other's hands. In the middle of them, a gigantic ball of black and red energy pulsed. Each time it did so, a beam of power shot up to the ceiling and cascaded outward. One of the men stood and turned around. His face was so pale he could have passed for a dead man. He smiled crookedly, revealing 2 lines of rotting yellow teeth. "So, you found us, did you?" The enemy sneered. "Your kingdom caused my people a lot of pain. We're going to enjoy killing you." Before Zylok could say a word, Eliath walked up to the man and smiled. "Hello, ugly." He studied the man up and down a bit further before pointing at the enemy's chest. "You really are hideous to look at. You need a new set of teeth, a years-long bath, and probably some new internal organs by the looks of you. But we aren't here to trade insults, so I'll get to the point. You 4 are going to die. I could explain why, but it doesn't matter at this point." The enemy pulled a sword from his scabbard and pointed it at the warrior's chest. "It's because of you I died to begin with. Lord Zauron and Villaran have given us a new purpose. I won't allow you to..." Eliath activated his gauntlets and aimed his hands at the ground. Loud rumbling shook the earth before 4 glowing jade chains flew out of the dirt and wrapped around the 4 enemies. Waving his hand sideways, he caused a great sword to materialize out of thin air. He grabbed the weapon and screamed as he swung it. His enemies tried to dodge, but instead lost his head. "Eliath, what are you doing?" Zylok called out. Eliath ignored the old man and sprang forward, swiping and hacking at the remaining 3 enemies. Thud, thud, thud. Each of their heads hit the ground in succession. Eliath turned around and threw away his weapon. "They're dead. Problem solved." Zylok came over to him and put a hand on his shoulder. Lad, you can't go charging into situations like that. Please, keep a calm mind. Cracking his neck, Goliath turned away from the old man and focused on a large orb of energy. The shield had begun to disintegrate. The large orb turned to an unstable blob, then exploded into a sea of light particles. Goliath gave a thumbs up to everyone. Barrier is down. Let's go meet our comrades. Ezra came over to Goliath and sucker punched him in the ribs. Don't ever pull that crap again. We work together. Got it? Goliath winced from the blow and rubbed his side. He chuckled nervously as he looked at his cousin. Yeah, all right, fine. I suppose I deserve that. You helped me get on the straight and narrow, cousin. I'm just doing my best to return the favor. We're family, and we need to have each other's backs. Zylok placed 2 fingers on his temples and closed his eyes. Suddenly, Goliath could hear the old man's voice inside his mind. Everyone, the barrier shield is down. Move in on the enemy. The time for battle is nigh. Zylok removed his hand from his forehead and nodded. Everyone's got the command. It's time to move in. Loud, piercing battle cries echoed across the fields. For a small moment, everything froze for Goliath. The sounds flooding his ears reminded him of his dream. He didn't want it to be true. Everything would turn out to be okay in the end, right? That's what he wanted to believe, at least. Someone shook his shoulder violently, and it pushed him out of his thoughts. Turning, he found his cousin attempting to pull him forward. Come on, Goliath, snap out of it. We've got enemies on our tail. It's time for you and I to put our training to use. Are you with me? Ezra held out a fist. Forcing his brain to focus, Goliath gave his cousin a fist bump and smiled. Of course I'm with you. Let's do this. And that ends chapter 41. I don't think Goliath is going to get the ending he's hoping. Just a guess. Just a guess. He's a bit bent out of shape, and rightly so. He's lost a lot of his family, his mother included. Not to mention, even though his father's there, he's not going to stay. After the battle, he'll be gone. He has every right to be, upset, if you want to think of it that way. Every right. Okay, let me keep an eye on my messages here. This is for your about page. Amlas, thank you. I will keep that up and present so I can keep an eye on it. Wonderful. Oh boy. It's kind of been a long week, hasn't it? I was torn tonight if I should keep reading the book or play some Once Human. But I decided, calm tonight would be good. I can play Once Human anytime. Well, in theory. But I wanted to have a more of a relaxed evening with you guys. It's up to you. Yes. You are correct. It is technically up to me. I appreciate that. But yeah, I like the chill of it. Honestly. With some tea and some reading. Exactly. Exactly. Speaking of reading, should we crack on? Chapter 42 is on page 448. The fight for Targus begins. Eliath rushed forward with his cousin beside him. They were still a good distance from the castle, so he pushed himself to run faster, even with his legs throbbing and his chest thumping. A few enemies were trailing them. Turning his head, he found Xylock and Kairos fighting their way toward the front gate. In the distance, Corey and Nolan stomped forward toward a group of enemies. Each step they took caused an earth-rattling boom. Eliath's heart raced. He was so close to taking down Zalron. Unfortunately, lines of enemies were blocking him and Ezra from reconvening with the rest of their comrades. Atari. Hi there. How are you, my dear? He held out a fist to his cousin and grinned. What do you say, cousin? Should we give them something to remember us by? Ezra nodded and slammed his hands together. Emerald energy flowed around his arms and hands as he prepared for their attack. What did you have in mind? Eliath thought hard. Just chilling, nice to see and hear you again. Well, thank you. When are you going live next, Atari? Because I don't feel like I've seen you live in a while. I could be wrong. Maybe I just missed you, but I'm not sure. Time difference? Yeah, I know. It's a time differences are pains in the tuchus. Eliath thought hard. There was only one move they'd worked on together in Titalis, and they didn't have the amount of time needed to truly master the move. However, he remembered when he was a child, and his father had performed a similar technique. It's always afternoon and evening my time? Okay. Well, I can always try my best and just hope for the best to catch you. Knowing that he had the master trait as well as the disciple, he figured there was no time like the present to put his theory to the test. Returning his focus to the front, he realized the enemies would be upon them at any moment, so he activated his energy gauntlets and bumped his cousin's fist. The armored lion technique. Let's do it. Ezra's eyes opened wide. It was clear the man was nervous, but a small hint of excitement.
I'm lurking now.
Thank you for the lurk. A small hint of excitement showed on his features as he pulled his hands back and kneeled. If you say so, Eliath. There's no guarantee this will work. You know that, right? Eliath did know, but he wasn't planning on giving up. He aimed his gauntlets forward and waited for his moment to shine. Ezra's short blonde hair lit up emerald. The ground rose and morphed. As it rose higher, it started ripping sections of itself away from the foundation of the earth and formed into legs. Then came a body, a head, and lastly a tail. However, it was only the beginning. Eliath knew no boundaries with his creativity. He smiled at his cousin before shooting a blast of jade energy at the molded beast. Where the lion's mane would be, spiky metal formed all around and down to the shoulders. Large iron claws protruded from the paws, and at the end of the tail, more armor formed in the shape of multiple daggers. He held out his hand to his cousin. With their fingers interlocked, they each held their free hands up. Jade lightning crackled around Eliath's body, while emerald flowed around his cousin. Once the energy formed into a bright burning ball in their hands, they both shouted with all their might. Armored lion technique, beast mode. Kind of reminds me of like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Two beams of powerful lightning shot from their hands and struck the armored creature. Its eyes lit up a brilliant orange-red hue before lifting its head to the sky and roaring. As a line of enemies crashed in, the armored beast swung itself in a circle, its tail slashing the enemies apart as easily as slicing bread. The lion rushed forward into the battle, knocking more warriors out of the way, clearing a direct path for them to the front gate. Eliath, out of breath, turned to his cousin and smiled. "That was brilliant." Ezra laughed as he stretched out his arms. "It was, and it seems our beastie lion is still taking out enemies." He pointed off toward the lower hills. Eliath motioned them forward with a wave. "Let's not keep Sir Lionel waiting." He grinned widely as he nudged his cousin. "See what I did there?" Ezra took a deep breath in between strides. "I understand why Xylock calls you a degenerate now." Eliath refocused on their path ahead. He did his best to ignore the blood-curdling screams that echoed from all around him. His only objective was killing Zalron. While he understood there would be casualties in war, he didn't know just how bloody it would be. That was weird. My screen just flashed for some reason. That was so bizarre. Anywho, pungent odors of iron clung to the air like a wet blanket. Bright flashes of purple, blue, and red sparked like exploding stars from every direction of the battlefield. Just as he and his cousin neared the front gate, a hulking demon troll jumped in front of them. The red glow from its eyes illuminated its black, scaly exterior. Prong-like horns protruded from its shoulders, chest, elbows, and head. Eliath turned to Ezra and sighed. "Well, how do you want to handle this monster?" "I'm not sure." Ezra took a deep breath and looked at his alchemy bracelets. A smug grin crossed his face. "I've got an idea. Distract that monster for me." Eliath refocused on the troll. He activated his gauntlets and shot 2 lightning bolts forward. They struck the beast in the face, and it roared loudly. Meanwhile, Ezra had made it to the troll's left leg. He placed his hands on the scaly exterior and screamed. Pulsing currents of emerald energy moved up to the creature's knee. The skin started turning to solid stone, but it didn't last long. The troll roared so loud that the ground shook. Oh, and there's an ad starting in like 30 seconds. It looked down to see what caused such discomfort. Grabbing Ezra with its colossal hand, it raised him into the sky until they were eye to eye. The beast began squeezing. Ezra's skin turned pale. He couldn't even release a whimper. Filled with anger, Eliath raced forward and materialized a giant iron fist in his right arm. He slammed his weapon against the troll with as much force as he could muster. It had been enough to free his cousin. He threw his arm to the side and created a large mound of grassy hay. Fists clenched, Eliath rushed to his cousin and helped him up. "Are you okay?" Ezra brushed his body off and looked at his wrists. Sparks shot off his alchemy bracelets, causing him to wince. He removed them from his body and held them up. Large cracks were present on the surface of the material, and where the crystal housing sat, more sparks popped off. "Seems I won't be using these for the fight anymore." Eliath felt bad for his cousin. The one tool Xylock made him was destroyed. He wondered where his father was. It had been a while since they'd taken the barrier down, and the troll was making another attempt to come at them.
Eliath steeled himself and tried thinking of a way to take down their enemy. Directly behind him, he felt a warm wave of energy flood over him. He turned around and smiled. Marakai stood with blazing gold light swirling around him. He aimed his hands at the troll. Fractured planet, starfire. Huge cracks formed on the ground around the troll. Slowly, a rumbling built from under the earth, and a fiery wave of heat blasted upward. Blue and white lights surrounded the troll like a raging cyclone. The beast screamed and managed to stick one arm outside of the fire, but it didn't matter. The heat grew higher, and when it finally dissolved, all that remained was a charred skeleton. Eliath ran to his father. That was insane. Is that one of your god moves? It is. Marakai motioned for them to run. I'm sorry it took me so long. I've been going all over the field helping as many as I can. Your sister has become quite skilled with healing. The loud voice of Zylok sounded off from their rear flank. Everyone watch out. Corey and Noland are approaching the gate. Eliath's legs vibrated to a cadence. The ground shook. Boom, boom, boom. Before him stood the gate that separated them from the rolling hills that led to the castle and Zalron. The vibrations became more violent. When he turned around, he saw Corey and Noland rushing toward them. Zylok shouted out some commands to the different teams. One by one, bright magenta energy shields showed up, protecting everyone. Blue lightning sparked off of Corey, and a low hue of red energy glowed from Noland. They leaped forward and slammed their fists against the gate, causing it to give way with a rumbling boom. Piercing screams rang out from the enemies as they became squashed and buried underneath the rubble. Eliath turned around and held a fist in the air. Come on, warriors. Let's destroy them. Cheers and screams echoed as they ran toward the castle. Eliath searched the crowds for his sister, but couldn't find her. I hope you're okay. Noland and Corey led the charge, with Zeltrix beside them. A line of enemies stood a few 100 yards beyond them. A grayish-black mist floated behind them. As the two giant men made their arrival, they both were sent flying back by an invisible force. Eliath braced himself as the ground trembled. Flashes of purple and black lightning sparked off the silhouette of a man making his way forward. A haunting laugh echoed as the man floating in the air made his way to the front of the formation. It didn't take but a few seconds for Eliath to know it was Zalron. His black coat flapped in the wind, and his glowing purple eyes were visible from a mile away. Zalron turned to Daedon and pointed forward. Go finish off those giants. Of course, it would be my pleasure. Daedon jumped in the air and landed in front of the giants. He raised his double-sided blade and moved in for the kill. Zeltrix swooped in to stand in the warrior's path. He removed his sword from his sheath and parried the man. So, my son, you followed the path of darkness once again, even in death. His eyes softened as he stared wistfully at the man. Daedon's face turned sour. He took another step toward his father and raised his weapon. His pink eyes glowed with malice. You will not stop me, father. You failed me when I was alive, and you failed me once again in death. This is the end for you. Daedon swung his sword in a quick uppercut, but Zeltrix dodged with ease. He moved to the side, swiped his sword quickly, and cut the man's hilt in half. With a finishing blow, he punched his son in the throat. Daedon stumbled backward and dropped his weapons. He gasped and choked for a moment before begging his father with his eyes. Zeltrix wiped a single tear from his cheek and swung his sword, chopping off the man's head. "I'm sorry, son." Goliath couldn't believe his eyes. "Well, that was fast. That guy is no joke," Goliath said, looking at Zylok. "What a weakling," Zalron said as he spat on the ground. "I thought Daedon could handle that, but no matter. I'll take care of things myself." As Zalron prepared to attack, Goliath felt uneasy. A strong miasma lingered around his enemy. Every bad thing Goliath had experienced in his life seemed to flow through his consciousness all at once. He turned back around and found his sister 100 yards behind him with other healers. Their eyes locked in for a momentary embrace. Now he was ready for a fight. He had Zylok, Marikai, Kairos, and Ezra beside him. That was all he needed. There was no way he'd allow Zalron to walk away from the fight, even if they had to use their last resort plan. Zalron gave a wave to the rest of the army, and they charged forward like a herd of wild animals. Goliath tried dashing towards Zalron, but was met by another enemy. He didn't have time for this. He needed to get to Zalron to end this once and for all. As he clashed swords with the enemy, he noticed Zylok, Kairos, and Marikai quickly defeating their opponents, and that gave Goliath the extra push he needed to finish the one he was fighting. But soon after he took the first one down, more kept coming. Goliath could now see Ezra, Zylok, Kairos, and Marikai making it to the opening where Zalron was waiting and laughing. As Goliath took a group of enemies down, a chill ran up his spine. Bright tendrils of purple lightning were striking different dead enemy soldiers. Their bodies violently shook for a few seconds before their life force poured out and jumped into the black hood. Zalron's body started bending, almost like he was morphing into a different creature. Each time his body jerked, a perfect copy of himself shot outward and stood beside him. Clones, unlike anything Goliath had ever seen. Before too long, there were 5 duplicate Zalron standing next to the original. All of them laughed together, their song of evil rising high into the sky. Goliath continued running and shoving enemies out of his way, pulling more weapons out of thin air and using the armor around his limbs to punch and push his way to his family. He wouldn't let them face the monster alone. Suddenly, an odd feeling overtook his core. A spark of energy he hadn't felt before. It felt like It felt like a swarm of bees attempting to burst out of him. He held his arms out to the side and allowed the power to release. A huge explosion of jade energy shot outward and knocked over all the enemies within his vicinity. He looked at his hands to find tiny lines of electricity still moving off his skin. How did I do that? Deciding there was a better time to think about his newfound power, he rushed forward and joined his comrades. They each greeted him with an excited expression. "Well, it looks like the entire gang is finally together, old man?" Goliath said to Zylok. "Yes," Zylok answered. "I believe it's time we put an end to this once and for all. What do you say, Marikai?" "I've been ready for this for a long time," Marikai said. "And after all, I've got more of a grudge to settle with him than anyone else, I do say." "Well, isn't this sweet?" Zalron taunted. "All of you together once more to take me down. I have to say, though, if this is all you could muster together, well, Let's just say I've had some power upgrades of my own, and I'm going to enjoy watching you all burn. Oh, I don't think so, Marikai said. You're still the same stupid dark hood you've always been. You just have a new body and name. Fool, Zalron sneered. I'm more than just a new body and name. I've been reborn once again and will no longer be referred to as Lord Zalron, but now will be called Lord Zalgor. Eliath bursted out with obnoxious laughter. Whatever, Zalron. Zalron spat on the ground. Oh well, it was worth a shot. But this is the end for all of you. Now die. All 6 clones shot toward Eliath and his group so fast they were almost invisible. Eliath and his team put up their hands and prepared for the fight of their lives. And that ends chapter 42. Now the question is, what do we have left? Because I want to time this so that we can finish the book and then have our chat with Nathan, our author. So I want to do some quick mathematical equations here so that I can figure this out. Okay, so as I said, it ends on 486. We're about to start 456, which means we have about 30 pages left. Let's see, how many pages is chapter 43? Where do you end, chapter? Let's see. Okay, so 43 goes to 468. So that's like... That's most of what we... Like half? I can't math today. 456... 468... 486 pages total. Chapter 44 starts on 469, so if it was 470, that would be 16, so 17 pages. So yeah, about half. I think that would be pretty good. All right, so here's the plan. I'm going to drink some more tea. And then we'll read chapter 43. But then on Sunday, we'll finish the book and then have our chat with Nathan. Yeah. I think that would be the best approach. Yes. Okay. That way we'll have time to read and talk without, like, going crazy. All right. And then we can decide when we're going to start our next book. Maybe I'll take Thursday as a game night or something. Thursday next week. And then we can get started on the next book. Yeah. Oh, man, my neck. It's driving me crazy. Drive me crazy. I just can't see. I'm so excited to read to thee. Okay. All right. So for the final chapter of this evening, chapter 43, Blood, Bones, and Bruises. Sounds delightful. Eliath summoned his armor around his arms and blocked their incoming sword. He never expected a clone to be so capable. Every so often, he looked beyond his opponent to find the real Zalron staring at him with piercing purple eyes. It drove him mad. That and the fact he'd had a revelation of power come to him only a few moments ago, and he didn't understand how. Clashing metal sounded all around him, a cacophony of unholy chaos that grew louder by the minutes. To his left, Ezra had emerald energy whips tied around his clone's body. They punched and kicked at each other while moving farther away from their comrades. Zylok slammed a glowing purple foot into his opponent. "We need to get to the real Zalron so we can finish this." Eliath slammed his fist against the clone's face. Its nose caved in and it sang out with a wounded cry. It stumbled backward, holding its injury. Thinking quickly, Eliath materialized a long jade energy sword and cut off his enemy's head. Finally, with a moment to breathe, he looked forward, but no longer saw the original Zalron. Where did he go? Eliath wondered. A slow but steady rise of goosebumps crawled up his arms as the surrounding temperature dropped, causing him to shiver. This wasn't what he wanted to feel. A loud cry echoed out. Not the sound of someone in pain, but someone with a broken heart. "Zylok, I don't know where Zalron is. Are we still going with our last resort plan?" "I think we will." Eliath felt like insects were crawling in his stomach. He fell to his knees and vomited. A flaming black sword protruded through Zylok's chest. The old wizard coughed up blood. Behind him, Zalron laughed and held the old man by his head. "Zylok, get up!" Eliath tried to move, but couldn't. It was like an invisible hand had a grip on his body. Above him, the clouds turned gray and became darker by the minute. The wind howled as snow fell to the ground. The green grass slowly disappeared, and Eliath felt his heartbeat increase with every passing moment. A low ringing sounded in his ears. "No, no, no. This is all wrong. Blast it all!" A flash of lightning came out of nowhere, and Marikai leaped towards Zylok. "Let him go, you filth!" A quick flash of purple lightning shot through the elder god, and he fell to the ground. A flaming black sword shoved through his stomach. He cried out in pain as he crawled toward the old wizard. Eliath tried to move again. When he got an inch off the ground, a strong hand tightened around his neck and pulled him back down. "What is going on?" A low voice whispered to Eliath. "How does it feel, boy? I told you this would happen. I warned you that everyone close to you would die. Now you're helpless, and all you can do is watch. How does it feel?" Not sure what this piano tune is, but I like it. It's called Indigo. 'Tis one of my favorites as well. Eliath knew the voice was Zalron's. He wanted to turn around and shove a fist through the villain's throat, but all he could do was watch. "I'm going to kill you. Mark my words, this fight ends with you on the ground." Zalron licked the boy's cheek and chuckled. Why would he lick the guy's cheek? That's just gross. "Maybe so, but not before you lose everything." Eliath pushed with all his might to stand and finally broke free. When he turned around, the black hood was gone. Fists clenched, he made his way toward his hurt comrades. The snow covered the grass entirely now, and he felt like he was in his childhood dream. Darkness began swallowing the light as the sun slowly set. He tried seeing through the blizzard to find his other comrades, but it was pointless. Finally, however, a small glimmer of hope came as he found Ezra rushing toward him. "Cousin, come on. We need to help our family." Goliath saw his uncle coming through the misty air right after his cousin. Goliath was still a good distance from them, but he was close. His eyes caught sight of glowing purple eyes behind Zylok, and he screamed with all his might. "Watch out! It's a trap!" Kairos and Ezra halted. They both turned to Goliath with wide eyes as two swords slammed through their chests. Their faces tightened as they dropped next to Zylok and Merikai. Each of the warriors clutched at their wounds. Goliath didn't understand. And quite frankly, neither do I. Why didn't Zalron just do this in the first place? Everyone had these epic battles before, throwing each other into rocks and pounding them into the ground and all kinds of stuff. But now all of a sudden, they just get stabbed. Why couldn't they remove the swords and eat an healing apple? What kind of magic was Zalron using? He continued his path toward his comrades until the voice of the Black Hood stopped him in his tracks. He turned to his enemy who stood on the other side of the field. The weather had died down and he could see clearly now. Blood decorated the snow like summer wine. Swords clattered and clashed in an unholy symphony, only to be drowned by the sudden fits of screams piercing the cold night like daggers. He trudged through the snow and passed the line of corpses. The howling wind reverberated against his ears and deafened him. He couldn't believe how many people were dead. I can see clear now the blood is gone. Yikes. "Eliath, watch out!" He turned and narrowly avoided a ball of purple energy. Its searing heat left a burn on his cheek. Sindril stood 10 yards away, looking directly at him. She held out her hand wistfully. "Brother, what are you doing? The enemy is over there." Eliath nodded. "What are you doing, Sindril? You need to get out of here. It's not safe." Sindril slowly trudged forward, her armor burned and bent. Black marks lined her face, and her walk turned into a limp. "Eva got hurt. I'm the only healer left. I wanted to make sure you were okay." Magenta energy started exuding from her body. "Is this your doing?" Eliath asked. He pointed to the snow. "Yes, I don't know how it happened. I'm sorry." A cackling laugh came from the other side of the field, so dark and evil that Eliath's neck jerked in response. He'd never thought a laugh could make him feel so hollow inside. He narrowed his vision and saw the Black Hood. His glowing purple eyes raked the canyon. The wind grabbed the black cloak, stained with the blood of the dead, twisting it through the air around his back. "I'm going to kill you," Eliath screamed. With a deep breath, he raised his gauntlets and fired a blast of jade energy. It rushed forward like a vicious wave on the ocean. Zalron laughed as he stopped the powerful attack with both hands. He squeezed hard, causing the power to shrink into a ball. As he slammed his hands together, a shockwave of wind dispersed the energy, and he cracked a devious grin. Eliath gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. He looked around once more, and locked the images of the loved ones sprawled out on the ground in his memory. He raised his trembling hand and aimed a finger at Zalron. You took everything from me. I can't allow you to live. Maybe there used to be good inside of you, but I don't care anymore. Zalron laughed. Adjusting the crystal dangling around his neck, a guard lay sprawled on the ground 50 yards away, clutching at his chest. The evil menace raised a hand. Purple lightning crackled around his fingers and shot forth, latching around the injured man's neck. Zalron pulled hard, sending his victim hurtling through the air. Thud. The man landed with a painful cry, still clutching his chest and begging for mercy. Zalron reached down and grabbed his head, pulled him up, and showed him to Eliath. Good left in me, huh? Any good that was left in me was taken away a long time ago. I don't even remember who that man was. I do know exactly who and what I am now. My purpose is clear to me. My destiny is to rid the world of you and everyone you love. It's as easy as this. He squeezed the guard's head until it popped in a sickening crunch, splattering the ground with fragments of brain and bone. Eliath screamed and charged forward, weapon at the ready. He swung his sword with deadly accuracy, but Zalron had disappeared. Then, hot pain tore through his chest. An onyx sword protruded, drenched in dark red blood. Every nerve in his body cried out in agony, and his eyes blurred as he fell to his knees. He looked up to find his enemy looming over him. Gloved hands moved toward him. Death was near, and everything happened in slow motion. Eliath wanted to move, but his chest throbbed and his legs were weak. Zalron's sinister laugh sounded again, and this time Eliath felt it echo against his heart. He raised his hands, throwing them in front of his face. He wanted to fight, but the pain kept him frozen. In the blink of an eye, a large ice spear sprung from the ground and pierced the Black Hood's throat. He spat up blood as he attempted to remove the sharp protrusion. What the? Eliath hadn't completely lost consciousness yet, and could see that it was Sindral. She burned with hot pink and white power as her eyes shone brighter than Meridian's ever did. He tried speaking to her, but choked on blood instead. Sindral stalked towards Zalron. Ice particles swirled around her. She aimed her hand at the enemy and spat. This is the end for you. You little brat, Zalron said. How dare you interfere with my victory? I'm going to enjoy ending you here and now. Give it your best shot, beast, Sindral said. I won't allow you to touch any more of my family. Oh, you mean like how you weren't able to save your pathetic mother? Zalron said. Or maybe you'd like to join her, since you miss her so much. How dare you? Sindral formed another ice spear and pierced it through Zalron's chest. The Black Hood shrieked. Eliath felt the pain in his voice. But it wasn't a hurt pain. It was the sound of an animal who was ready to kill. He could tell his sister couldn't control her emotions or powers. He wanted to help her, but his vision started blurring in and out. Onyx and purple lightning shot off of Zalron's body. It swirled around his arms and hands. He grabbed the ice spears and shattered them. Moving his hand sideways, he formed another black sword burning with fire out of thin air. He stalked towards Sindral. Any last words, girl? Sindral continued making ice weapons and throwing them forward. Her enemy simply deflected them and continued his pursuit. She turned to Eliath, her eyes full of regret. How was he moving? He had an ice spike right through the neck, and then another one through his chest. I'm sorry, little brother. Zalron leaped forward and shoved his blade through her chest. He lifted her into the air and cackled with joy. The last member of the family. Enjoy the afterlife. He tossed her to the ground and turned to Eliath. Time to deal with you. Eliath tried screaming, but his injury kept him silent. He stared at his sister. Her body lay silent on the ground, blood seeping out of her. He felt his heart go numb as he lifted his head to the sky and cried. Gold, energy, and wind raced around him as sadness increased. Bringing his head down, he watched Zalron's face appear as the storm around him strengthened. Flashes of gold and jade lightning came out of the ground and struck him in the chest. His nerves tingled. His eyes felt like tiny insects were crawling around, scratching at his retina. He couldn't see or think straight. However, as the lightning ceased, everything inside the storm became silent, and a calm voice spoke to him. Hello, Ellie. Vision strained, he attempted to find where the voice came from. Only one person in his life called him Ellie. Soon enough, silvery gold energy swirled around before him, and his mother walked out of it. Her beauty was as radiant as ever. She smiled and approached him with her hand held out. My son, I know you are hurting, and you feel like all hope is gone. But I assure you, nothing could be further from the truth. Meridian's voice came out gentle. Mother, Eliath said. His words were raspy. She put her hand on his cheek and smiled. Listen, Eliath. The only way to defeat Zalron is by calming your mind in order to unlock your true power. Eliath didn't know what to say. His mother stood before him and he didn't know how. He wondered if perhaps she'd become a god, or if he was in another dream. The last person who talked about true power was Kai. He tried to keep a calm resolve while listening to her. He placed his hand on top of hers and closed his eyes. Finally, he gave up and let his tears flow. Mother, how are you here? Are you real? Or is this just a dream? He reached out to touch her face. She felt warm, as though she were alive. It's been so hard without you. I wish you were here. He sobbed relentlessly and fell into her embrace. Meridian kissed his head and rubbed his back. My little angel, it's as I've always said. Whenever you feel sad or lost, think of me. She stepped back and put her hand over his heart. I'm right here, and I'm always with you. Her body began fading from sight. Mother, don't go, please. He reached for her, but his hand went right through her. It was as if she was nothing more than energy. Please stay. I love you. Don't leave me here alone. Did he not just hear what her mother said? Meridian's smile stayed until the very last minute. I'll always love you. Eliath released a slow breath. She was gone. He didn't know how to feel. Seeing his mother one last time was a gift, but he wished he could have gone with her. Everything outside of the swirling energy was nothing but dead bodies and an evil warlock waiting to kill him. His heart raced, thinking about his comrades. They might still be alive. Out of nowhere, his pulse started beating twice as fast, and his eyes flickered with gold light. He looked at his gauntlets and found the same colored energy pouring out of the crystal housing unit. The sword in his chest was gone. He no longer felt tired or weak. A power flowed through him like nothing he'd ever experienced before. As he clenched his right fist, he felt a thick object. He looked down to find a beautifully crafted sword. The blade shimmered a silver so brilliant it was like looking into a clear ocean. At the tip of the metal sat a star engraved in gold. The top of the hilt was intricately built. Each side had 3 spikes sticking out, giving off the shape of a star. And the pommel was a silver star with gold specks. As he walked forward, sparks of gold lightning shot off of him and struck the swirling power storm, causing it to shoot outward and disperse. The heat around his body melted the snow, creating a clear puddle at his feet. He admired himself. His hair glowed bright orange and fluttered in the I'm assuming that's wind, like miniature streaks of fire. And his eyes were something new. They burned a bright amber color. In front of him, Zalron stood with arms crossed and an excited smile. It seems you've gotten a power upgrade. Now we can have a real. Without understanding how, Eliath rose into the sky and hovered. The energy around him grew brighter with each passing moment. All of his senses were heightened. When he looked into the distance, he could see everyone. The smell of iron and smoke came into his nose. Zalron hovered over Syndrel's body with an evil grin. Eliath had enough. He aimed his hands forward, and a blast of gold lightning shot forth. It struck the black hood in the chest and sent him flying back 100 feet. A loud boom shook the ground, followed by a blood-curdling scream. Eliath took a deep breath and dropped to the ground, racing to his sister. He knew there wasn't much time. Upon arrival, he kneeled and removed the blade from her chest. She jerked slightly from the pain, her eyes rolling around under closed lids. Hands on her chest, he whispered to her. Are you okay? She just had a sword in her chest. I don't think she's okay. A trace of white light seeped out of his hand and hovered over her body. What just happened? In a matter of seconds, her eyes opened and she sat up. Eliath. She leaned forward and hugged him. I'm glad you're okay. He squeezed her tight, helped her to her feet, and led her toward their comrades. I'm glad you are too. We need to help our family. On arrival, he removed the swords from his other comrades and repeated the same action. White light came from his hand and hovered over their bodies. A moment later, they all were sitting and munching on healing fruits. How on earth did you do that? Kairos asked. I feel completely restored. And this new power you have, how? Truth be told, Eliath said, I don't have the faintest idea. When I saw Syndrel impaled a moment ago, I lost my temper. After that, gold energy surrounded me and I was visited by my mother. I don't know how it happened, but afterwards I ended up like this. He looked at Zylok and narrowed his eyes. What's the plan, old man? Zylok scratched his charred beard and stood. He reached into his side bag and pulled out 6 necklaces with indigo crystals dangling on the end. As he handed them out, Corey came rushing in, out of breath and red-faced. The wizard smiled at him. Good timing. You can join us for the sealing spell. Corey nodded, put his necklace on, and clapped loudly. What are we waiting for? Eliath looked at all his comrades' faces. He didn't want them to die. Off in the distance, he heard the shrieking screams of Zalron nearing them. Let's face him head on and weaken him. With my new power and whatever this sword is, he held it up for them to see. Zylok's jaw dropped. That's the Sword of Kai. How did you get that? Eliath tilted his head. Sword of Kai. He thought hard for a moment and then gasped. Wait, this is Supreme Elder God Kai's sword? The wizard reached out to touch the blade, and a spark shot off. Yes, indeed. This is the divine sword. It's one of a kind. If Kai sent this to you, then you're truly destined for great things. I can tell you more about it later. Very well, Eliath said. So how does this sealing spell work? We're basically trying to kill Voldemort. So this better be a good plan. Sindril rolled her eyes. You're never going to stop the movie references, are you? I mean, I wouldn't. Eliath shrugged. His eyebrows bounced as he smiled. Never. Zylok brought everyone close to him and lowered his voice. When Zalron is weak, we will stand around him in a circle. All you have to do is say the word Laus, and that will link all our crystals. Leave the rest to me. Marikai stared wistfully at him. Zylok, that spell takes a ridiculous amount of power. You're too weak to perform it. Zylok motioned toward the rest of the group. I don't see anyone else here who can do the spell. Eliath! Zalron shrieked as piles of enemy soldiers went flying up in the air. Eliath chuckled nervously. Look, I'll fight him by myself. I feel something inside of me. It's almost like a small voice telling me what I need to do. You all rest up, and when I have him weak, you all phase in, and we'll seal him. His comrade placed their hands on his shoulders. Zylok gave him a wink. You get him, Eliath. I believe in you. With extra motivation, Eliath made his way toward his enemy. The Black Hood stood a few 100 feet away with purple energy shooting off him. You! Zalron screamed. You've ruined everything, boy. It could have been so simple. All you had to do was become my follower and you could have been happy, living in a peaceful life with no war, no hunger, no sadness. But no, you had to be a thorn in my side. Zalron disappeared from sight. Eliath closed his eyes and focused on the earth's energy. When he opened his eyes, he felt like he was looking through a gold light. A purple blur came toward him, dancing back and forth. Grateful for his new powers, he smiled. He focused harder, and everything slowed down. He now saw the blur as Zalron simply running in a zigzag pattern toward him. He lunged forward and punched the evil menace in the throat, sending him to the ground. Zalron grabbed his neck, coughed, and spat out blood. How were you able to see me while I was phasing? Zalron asked as he scrambled to his feet. I have no idea, Eliath said. Frankly, I don't give two flying bats how I did it. All I know is you can't run from me, and you definitely can't hide. So why don't you give up now and we can end this? Zalron raised his fist and tossed a blue ball of fire. Eliath dodged, rushed forward, and grabbed the man's face. We'll do it the hard way then. As he started squeezing, he noticed the warrior's hand moving around at the knee. Eliath looked up and found a boulder-sized ball of purple and black electricity. He jumped back from Zalron and raised his sword. The energy attack flew toward him. He swung his blade as he heard a loud ting. The ball of death shot backward towards Alron and struck him in the chest. Strolling forward, Eliath laughed as he twirled his blade. Man, I'm like Melodious now. I've got a full counter. He aimed his weapon at his enemy. The Black Hood got to his feet and brushed himself off. I'll admit, boy, you're stronger than I thought you'd be, even with your new powers. It's clear I'm going to have to use my god form. I haven't had to use this attack in ages. Consider yourself lucky. Zalron's body shook violently as purple lightning shot from his chest and struck all of his army, living and dead. His voice raised higher above the noise. I hope you enjoy the show. Book is big on media references. Indefinitely. Piercing screams came from his army as their bodies morphed into energy. It raced forward and struck Zalron in the chest. Eventually, Zalron stood over 12 feet tall, and an army of 20 clones stood before him. He cackled with glee as he raised his head to the sky. A bright red shield formed around his true body, and a beam of power shot up into the clouds. It built into a colossal ball before exploding. Eliath stared with his jaw dropped. Zalron's face was magnified, taking up a large portion of the sky. He looked like a vengeful god ready to consume a planet. His purple eyes looked back and forth, and his clones marched forward. Eliath jumped backward, and the moon-sized eyes followed him. There was no escape. He'd have to defeat them all before getting to the real one. Come on then, let's do this. Eliath raced forward with his sword at the ready. He was prepared to sacrifice himself if that's what it took. This would be his trial of fate. And that ends chapter 43. Trial of fate indeed. So, on Sunday, we will read the last 2 chapters, and then hopefully, if timing allows and our author is available, we will have a chat with Nathan Helm, the author of Kingdom Society. And that kind of times it pretty good for tonight, because as I said, I'm going to be in Discord reading a very different book in about 15 minutes, give or take. If you wish to join me, !iron, or if you're already in the Stunt Mama's Discord, you're welcome to join us in the event chat every Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time. 15 minutes from now, whatever time it is for you. But for now, I'm going to pull up something. I'm trying to find where the stream. Oh, there they are. I'm going to pull up Twitch and see who else is live right now that we can go say hello to. All right. Let's take a look-see. There's a lot of people online right now. Of course, there's always a lot of people online right now. Oh boy. Gosh, there's so many different streams. So many. You know, we don't get to raid my friend Rio very often, so I think that's what we're gonna do. Feel free to copy the message. And we'll go raid Rio. She's a wonderful person. She's always been a great friend to me. So come with me to say hi. And as I said, on Sunday, we'll come back and we'll finish the book. See how it ends, at least book 1. This is technically the beginning of this entire story. And then we'll go from there. It's been a pleasure reading to you all. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and have a lovely night. Good night.